I really enjoyed the couple of short films that I got a chance to work on last year, just before all the lockdown hit and everything. There was a couple of really good ones that I wouldn't. One in particular that really stands out for me. It was a great story, great setting, great bunch of people as well, working on with Leeds Beckett. Filming on the bus, which is very exciting, very different. So I've done makeup in a lot of places, doing this before over the years, but on a top deck of a double-decker bus was certainly an interesting one.
I really enjoyed working at the FB Fashion Ball in Leeds, which I worked through with Naomi, who's one of the lecturers, and we worked for brands such as Tom Ford and Ted Baker, and it was a really good experience because it was a really professional environment, and something that I'd kind of been worried about as a makeup artist is being seen as kind of undervalued, but were really appreciated there, so it was a really nice experience.
I'd probably say body art was my favourite, especially going to like the prosthetics event and seeing all the body art there as well. Being able to do research into different artists and be able to inspire that into my makeup, into the body art, which really, I enjoyed that a lot and that was really fun for me to do.
So thinking about it, I don't think there's one thing that I've enjoyed, there's quite a few. A couple of them would be the Historical with Charlie. I absolutely loved designing and then styling and fitting the wigs, so I just love dealing with wigs anyway, it's kind of what I want to do. And then another one would be the prosthetics, specifically recreating the Viking look that I did, because I managed to get the perfect model for it. I loved learning how to do the flat moulds and then fitting them as well, and then the costume as well, because I managed to collaborate with costume hire with the Playhouse.
I quite enjoyed the body art. I liked having like the freedom of creating something within just a set concept. I really liked that.
I don't think I have one favourite thing. I think the most recent one, which was my final project, was the most enjoyable. All of them, because I really kind of put my 100%, like all of me, into that, because it was my project. So, yeah.
So I based my final project all on my love of horror films. I'd decided to keep it something that I was very much interested in, and I was first of all looking into sort of why we watch horror films, because fear is essentially a negative emotion. So for some of them for one of them in particular, I chose a really old film. I chose Nosferatu from 1922. And so really modernising it, like modernising the effects, and the effects in the original were very, very crude, very theatrical, very thick and heavy, not blended, but of course it was hidden because it was such an old film.
I based my project on diversity and inclusion and the misconception of the colour nude. I started it in September, which was obviously not long after the Black Lives Matter movement kind of took off. So for me, I kind of felt that I was really uneducated on the matter, so I wanted to kind of change that. So I looked mainly at the misconception of the colour nude. So what I liked about doing that is because it was my final project, I had to reach out to different models and my own photographer, and they were industry contacts that I'd already made kind of in my last year of university. And it was really good in that sense because I felt that I was really responsible for that end product, that it was all my idea. So like the original concept and then comparing that to the end photos, it was really like a proud moment to know that I kind of created it all.
But the project is to create awareness of how people portray themselves online, whether it's positive or negative. People like to hide behind their screens, and it's about bringing them back to the real world and seeing if they're trying to bring these identities into the real world and if that's a good or a bad thing.
So my final project is to do with ageless beauty and normalising women over a certain age being represented throughout the fashion industry and the beauty industry, breaking down the barriers and the stigma around when women turn a certain age they can only wear certain clothes or wear certain makeup looks. So I've tried to research into that and just bring women of a certain age together.
I've based my final project around feminism and diversity and equality. So I've done like research into how women feel about advertising from like the past and the present, and I've tried to base my project around involving everyone.
My final project was about uniqueness, perceptions of uniqueness, looking at redhead models in the industry, how we don't see them as often. I wanted to educate people on how stereotypes can actually affect our thinking and how people still believe in stereotypes, and I wanted to break them and showcase redhead models as they also can be beautiful. My research showed that people still believe redhead people are not attractive, or they burn in sun and like stupid things like that.
Katie, in season Katie's wigs, she was really helpful, especially with postige, because that's such a fiddly little technique to get right, and it was great to have her just sit with you and just show you how to do it. She like sat with me on my shoulder and like sat with me until I got it, because I was really struggling to get it. We did the call with Stuart Bray as well a little while ago. It was great to watch him work, just because Stuart Bray is prosthetics genius. So just to hear him speak and talk and just hear what he has to say was great.
So I really enjoyed the guest speakers in the Princess Trust module, because although it was nice to have kind of industry contacts from brands like Urban Decay, for me it was nice being able to see kind of where we can take the degree. So learning about things like tax and contractual agreements, that's something people sometimes go throughout education and not learn about at all.
So Calico, I really liked when she came in. It's interesting to see their makeup they do and learn tips from them, but my favourite part is hearing the stories they've got to tell. Like Calico, I got to hear more what it's like behind on a theatre, and it made me kind of change my mind a little bit on what I wanted to do, because I originally wanted to go into theatre.
I think one of the main ones who we've seen a couple of times is Laura Lawrence, just because she's amazing with what she does. You know, she's worked on a lot of stuff, and one of my particular favourites is Peaky Blinders. I've been obsessed with that show for years, so to be able to meet somebody who's worked so closely with the cast and the design and stuff, and she gave some amazing tips to kind of make it in the industry, but also makeup and hair stuff as well, that's just something that you wouldn't really think of. And then recently we did the Film Buddy interview with Melanie Lenahan. She's currently the makeup designer on the War of the Worlds series, and the original War of the Worlds was one of the first kind of horror sci-fi based things I watched as a kid. Shouldn't have watched it as a kid, but I did anyway. And it's so amazing to speak to her, to see how she managed to take something so iconic and old and really like throw it into the, you know, into the 21st century and modernise it. I think with both of them, what stood out for me is that, because it's personal for me, is that they're both mums. So they've gone into the industry, and they're in the industry as parents, and it's kind of shown me that I don't need to hold back because I have a child. It's something to kind of embrace.
So Danielle Brown, so she was just teaching different hairstyles for different cultures and stuff like that, so I feel like that really helped gain a bit of knowledge in case I wanted to obviously do that with my own project as
But when you're in the studio, like down at Prime Studio or up at Quarry Hill, that's when it feels real. It's like, because instead of just being sitting in the classroom, you know, writing and talking, like when you actually get to make the things and do the stuff, like that's the exciting part. That's like making magic.
So here, obviously it's recently been renovated, so I think the space is just really nice. Obviously there's floor to ceiling windows as well, so the lighting's really good for makeup artists. at Prime Studios, obviously it's like a space where we can be quite creative, like it's fit for doing things like prosthetics, so we can make a bit of a mess there and get really creative. And about both of them, I think I like obviously being in like a university student in higher education, but at a college, I think it's nice to have that separate space from college students, being able to like feel like you are at university level.
Working on at Prime Studio is you're working around a live set as well. So even though you're kind of not on it, you're still in that environment, and it's really good to be in a studio that, you know, it's not just used for educational makeup, it can be, you know, used for anything in industry.
Yeah, I've really enjoyed, obviously with the new studio as well. It's so much better, and doing the theory in the lecture hall, it's so much easier to just get your work done. And I've also found during COVID, Google Hangouts has been a godsend. It's been really helpful for obviously getting in contact with like tutors and stuff.
Most of the time we spent in Prime, I think how accessible that was for us, and we had access to all materials as well, which was lovely, and here as well, if we needed to take something with us, it would be easy.
All the tutors are great. Like if ever you need anything, I know I've had to take extra time a couple of times for some of my modules, some of my hand-ins, and it's never a problem. It's like they're always there to just say, yeah, absolutely, like anything that you need. And because all the tutors, they've all got such a different background, like there's just so much insight.
I'd say the one-to-ones, which I didn't really take advantage of in my first and second year, but especially in lockdown when you're over sort of like a screen, when you're in a classroom of 15 people online, I think it's hard to kind of get the answers you need. So being able to have like a weekly one-to-one and say like, this is what I'm personally struggling with, especially when it gets to level 6 and everyone's doing their own thing, I think it's important to be able to ask questions about what you're doing in your module and how you're struggling with it.
So the lecturers have been really helpful towards me. Never a problem's too big for them either. If I've needed help, I don't feel like I need to worry about going to them. I can 100% talk to them, and also they can't help me directly. I've definitely got pointed in the right direction to somebody that could.
This course has got incredible tutors that, no matter what your issues are, they're so approachable and they're so understanding. And I think because I have got a daughter, obviously there's a lot of times where she's had to be a priority over work, and as horrible as it's been to kind of say, you know, I'm going to have to push that back a little bit, especially during the pandemic, they've been so understanding and so supportive.
Speaking two languages, because English is not my first language, I feel like that support from librarians and from people, like checking my work and yeah, giving me this feedback on that was the most important area, and I really improved as well, which it's incredible. It's just seeing myself from year 1 to now, it's been a massive jump, and I'm really proud.
So I've just been accepted to do the Masters, start in September in creative practice, which isn't something I really planned on doing originally, because I didn't really think I was going to get into university in the first place. But so doing the Masters will be really good, and I'm also continuing to do my business, which I've worked with the Prince's Trust.
I've just got an interview for my PGCE for next year to be able to train as a teacher at college to teach makeup.
I'm looking forward to just getting out into industry and just being in the middle of it all, no matter, do you know, whether it's film, TV or theatre. I don't have a specific preference of what I want to go into. It was theatre for a very long time, but then after working on the film last year, anything goes now. I'm just looking forward to kind of being in the middle of it and seeing what I can get out of it.
So I'm actually wanting to go into teaching like beauty courses, accredited courses alongside my freelance. and hopefully get a job teaching like in Browse and stuff.
But I am really excited to go into the industry and start creating, and for now obviously the industry is not quite ready for us, so I will focus on doing extra things, preparing myself for it, doing portfolio, networking, collaborating and doing stuff like that.